Hi everybody, welcome again to my channel. This is Dr. Mills here. I hope you are all keeping well and doing well. I know it's been a lot that's been going on, especially with the coronavirus, and really we've lost some people in the world. May their soul rest in peace. And it's been really tough, and everyone has been affected at some level, and whether it be their health, or having to care for loved ones who fell ill, or having to be separated from loved ones who were inflicted or who were at risk for the virus. And some of us have lost our jobs, some of us had to be laid off, schools were interrupted, some of us had to be away from our friends, and it's been very difficult. And it depends on the country that you're living in. Some countries have, reduced the restriction and people are able to come out and get back to life, even though that might be difficult for some people to integrate back to normal daily activity, having had to live in seclusion or in isolation for the past 3 or 4 months so far. So, and there have been financial consequences as well, health implications. But I think what some people don't pay attention to is the mental implication that having to be isolated because of the pandemic has caused on some people. And with regards to mental implication, I'm talking about depression. Even before the pandemic, depression, I feel, is something that is in itself a pandemic as well. If I can go out on a limb to say that there are millions of people out there in the world who are living with depression. Some people are aware of it, and some people don't even know. And for those who don't know, they may have what we call a masked depression. For those who are aware of it and those who are not aware, living with depression is really a lonely experience. It's very difficult, and sometimes we feel that there is a stigma that is attached to it that impairs us from having to go out to seek help. Sometimes it's just a lot of confusion because we don't even know if we are depressed. So I feel like I would like to enlighten those out there on certain signs or symptoms that you might be experiencing that can suggest that you might be having depression. Alright? So depression is basically has to do with an alteration, right? An abnormal alteration or change in your mood. So we call it a mood disorder. Basically, what happened is that there's a deviation from your normal behavioral pattern. Alright, and this deviation from your normal behavioral pattern, it spans for at least 2 weeks. So what I'm trying to say is that you notice things like, you notice that for days on, you've been feeling very down, and sometimes you can't even identify why you're feeling down. Alright, why can't you find yourself feeling happy? Why are you feeling so sad? So you find yourself asking, why am I feeling so sad? Why do I feel so empty? Why do I just feel down all the time? And sometimes it's really crippling. It has a crippling effect in your social life and even in your physical health. Because if you're feeling sad, severely sad, for identifiable or for unknown reason, that tends to make you withdraw. You don't feel the drive, the motivation to want to do things. So if you notice that you're always feeling down and your mood is always low, you're always feeling sad and you don't even know why, that can be a sign, that can be a symptom of depression. The next thing that you can observe or you can notice that you've been having problem with your sleeping pattern. Alright? You might find yourself struggling to go to fall asleep, not because you have an exam or anything, it's just you lay in bed and you just can't sleep because your mind is just wandering and thinking about a lot of things. Just thinking about 10 years from now, what would happen, thinking about what happened 20 years ago or 10 years ago, or sometimes you just get these random thoughts in your head that just makes you panic for no reason. All right, and most times they just tend to be negative, and it makes you you find it hard to sleep. And even if you fall asleep, sometimes you find out that you keep waking up earlier than usual. Multiple times you always have to wake up and then you can't go back to sleep. So basically, there is a total distortion in your sleeping pattern, and the quality of your sleep tends to be poor. There are many things that can cause interruption with our sleep, but in this case, I'm assuming that if there are no other identifiable cause for your sleep interruption, like you're not taking a lot of caffeine or things like that, it could be a sign of depression. In addition to having a low mood and having poor sleep quality, you may also find that you've lost interest in things that you normally like doing. Maybe your hobbies, maybe you like playing football, you like going hiking, or you like, just taking a walk or reading a book or watching TV. And all of a sudden, you've noticed a gradual decrease in your interest in these hobbies or things that you consider recreational activities, and you just find out that you're not interested. The joy, the motivation to want to involve yourself in these leisure activities is just not there anymore, and you don't know why. So that loss of interest in activities that you usually enjoy is also what we call anhedonia, and it's also a classic sign of an evolving depression. So now there are three things that we've mentioned: having low mood, having poor sleep quality, and also having loss of interest in activities that you used to enjoy. Let's moving on. Another symptom that you should pay attention to is that you find yourself feeling guilty. It's like you're so consumed with guilt, probably for things that you feel that you're responsible for in your present or in the past. In some cases, maybe there is something that you feel guilty for, and you actually were guilty for that, were guilty of that. And in other cases, you were not directly responsible, and it can be, for example, you lost a friend, and then you just find yourself feeling that if I was there with her, maybe that wouldn't have happened to her. Maybe she would have had an accident and died, and then you just feel responsible. You feel guilty. All right, so you find yourself crippled with guilt and you just feel like you can't forgive yourself. It could be a sign of depression. All right. Coupled with these symptoms that I've mentioned, the low mood, the poor sleep, the loss of interest, and also the crippling guilt feeling, you also find out that your energy level is very low. For some reason, you just feel tired all the time. Like this persistent fatigue. You're just exhausted. You're exhausted physically, you're exhausted mentally, but you've not really done anything that you feel explains this level of exhaustion. Your most common phrase when anyone asks you how you're feeling is always, "I'm so tired." Now, there are other causes of fatigue, alright, like if your blood count is low, stress, or even if your thyroid hormone is low, but if you are feeling persistently tired, and in addition you find out that your mood is always low, your energy level is low, your sleep is poor, and you just feel crippled with guilt, the more you have more of these signs and symptoms, the more likelihood that there may be an underlying depression in there that needs to be addressed. Okay? And coupled with these symptoms I mentioned, you also find that your focus, there's a problem with paying attention. You're finding it difficult with schoolwork. You're finding it difficult to be productive at work. You're finding it difficult to complete tasks that you usually complete at a normal pace, but everything seems to be dragging on for too long because there is no motivation anymore. You find yourself procrastinating, things saying you will do it later, and you never get to meet those deadlines. So it feels like you're constantly lagging behind, and you don't know why. All right, and that can even lead to loss of jobs sometimes because you become less productive, or it can lead to poor academic performance and drop out from school. So it's something to pay attention to. If you find out that you're always struggling to catch up with task and deadline, something that wasn't usually characteristics of your personality. All right, so poor concentration, poor focus is something to take note of. And sometimes you find yourself feeling so anxious, so agitated. It's like you just get panicking. There's this anxiety that comes because, and most time the anxiety is because you don't understand why you're having all this constellation of symptoms. You know, it can be I can imagine it must be a very scary experience to be having all of these symptoms coming up all one by one, day by day by day by day. Plus, you're being very sleep deprived and you're withdrawn because it's all coming up and you're holding all of this inside because you don't know what is going on. So how can you explain what is going on to others when you don't know what's going on inside you or with you? All right, so if you find yourself feeling anxious all the time and you don't know why, in addition to the other symptoms that I've mentioned, it can be a sign of depression. Okay, and it's something that shouldn't be taken lightly. Moving on, you might also find that because of all of this that has been going on, you're feeling so sad. All right, you can't really sleep, so you're always feeling sleep deprived. All right, and you've lost interest in all your recreational activities, which have made you withdrawn from that, so you don't get any joy or excitement from these activities. And plus the crippling feeling of guilt for things that you feel responsible for, and you coupled with always being so exhausted, all right, and maybe losing your job because you can't focus anymore, all right. All of this can make someone feel that maybe it's time to take the easy way out, because you find that your perception of life is now kind of very negative and you start questioning what's the point anymore. Everything seems to be breaking down in my life and I don't know how to fix this. I don't want to be a burden to others, so maybe I should just take the easy way out. And once you start entertaining these thoughts, you start thinking, what's the easy way out of this? Maybe I should just leave this world. Maybe I should just take my life. Maybe I'm just not good. Maybe I don't even fit into this world. Maybe I don't belong to this reality. So let me do the world a favor and let me just leave this world. And then people find themselves having suicidal ideation. Suicidal ideation means suicidal ideas, where they make a plan of how they intend to leave this world. It has all been planned out, and now they've had this, so that now that they've had this suicidal ideation, what is left now is executing the plan, the suicidal attempt. So sometimes there's a window between having these suicidal thoughts and actually attempting the suicide, where they're actually excited and they go out. After being withdrawn for so long, there's a sudden rapid change in their behavior whereby they go out and they are all happy, full of energy, full of life, and just happy. It's a sudden shift from the person that they've been from the past 2 weeks. And all of a sudden people are like, why he or she is so happy and whatnot. And then after that, but unknown to the world, that is this person's way of saying goodbye. So he or she is just trying to make one final amend to be happy with everyone, and then they go home and then they actually initiate the suicidal plans, and then they take their life. And then we hear things of someone who took their life and we feel, oh, he was always happy. I saw him just yesterday, he looked so happy. It's so sad that just happened, And people say you never know what's going on in the mind of others, and that is really true. Depression is something that should be talked about. It shouldn't be seen as a stigma, because it is not a stigma, all right? Because if you think of it as a stigma, then you will never speak out, all right? You won't want to talk to that. You want to seek help. It's because of the negative impression that the society has created. But I'm here to say that you should be able to talk about it. Depression is not a stigma, and it is not your fault, and you are not responsible for it, all right? So in the next chapter of this video, I will talk a bit more about coping with depression. Thank you.